in some communities, residents have had no choice but to, some people jokingly call them internally displaced persons. They've had to go and find places where they can hang out. Some have moved to hotels, the ones that can afford it. The ones that had family elsewhere have gone to meet family. Some have even left certain communities because they have nowhere to lay their head and their property is lost. But in the face of all of this, what would one blame it on? In Lagos, Ogun, for instance, it was blamed on the Oyan Dam that was opened up. The water levels increased. There are those who have blamed it on climate change. There are those who have blamed the flooding across the country on blocked drainage systems. Some have said no drainage systems. At the end of the day, there were predictions about flood waters. What do we do? Every year we get these predictions. What is the solution to flooding in Nigeria? What do we do with the flood waters? Is there anything that can be done? Channel them to what area? Well, to help me and help us all, let's talk about this a bit. We have an environmental consultant here, Mr. Ola Oresanya. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Ola Oresanya.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You saw the water levels across the state and across the country.
Right.
How did you react? How did you feel?
Well, it's just one of the many environmental challenges that we have that we're just playing lip service to. And these are problems, are solutions, but we've not been able to really apply the real solutions. Probably because there are seasonal problems, all right, that the moment the flood goes now, everybody goes back to sleep until the following year when we have a problem again. That's when we talk about it. So there's not been a consistent agitation towards solving this problem. And talking about the Ogun flooding and just the inland water flooding that we've been having, yes, it's. I would want to take blame here that somebody else. Yes, the dam, they must open the dam. The dam integrity must be protected. But this goes beyond just Nigeria, all right? It's River Niger, okay, transverses several countries in Africa, and we're downstream. So the moment the volume increases upstream, they have to open the dams. And there's a partnership between Nigeria Hydrological Department, the Ogun River Basin Authority, duly informed the states that are going to be affected that, look, we're going to open the dams for some time. But the information was such a very short time, all right? And before you plan to do whatever, I mean, the damage will have been done, all right? And that has been going. So it's like we've been living along with the problem and managing the problem along, but then the real solution, an enduring solution, we have not really done it. And I think that's the area of focus. What should we do?
Exactly. The question of what to do. Again, you know the predictions come in every year.
Yeah.
That the hydrological services bring their, they tell you, okay, the water levels are going to rise. These areas are likely to be flooded. NIMET will tell you how much of rain we're going to have. Yeah. And the rains, thank God for climate change. The rains, we can't really say when the rains will end. I mean, by this time, some years back, the rains have ended and it's harvest time. But now the rains are continuing. It rained yesterday, and who knows, it might rain again today. But in the face of this, and the conversations that practically every state has a commissioner for environment, and there's a federal Ministry of Environment, what should be done?
All right. Now, what are the real...
I'm starting from the government side. We'll still come back to the people.
Yes. What's the source of the problem itself? Flooding. There are two types of activity that can cause this inland flooding. All right. The precipitation, which is a rainfall volume, all right, can cause flooding when you have a saturation of the soil and the capacity of the soil to soak in more water. So there's a natural retention, and there must be a splash. All right, so it can be a flash flooding, which will disappear within
a few,
I mean, maybe less than 1 hour or two, flash flooding, or it can be a kind of a long-lasting flooding due to the high level of saturation. So when volume of rain, which is predictable these days, when you know there's going to be a high level of saturation, then you prepare for flooding. Then there's another kind of flooding being caused by natural occurrences, which is a tidal fluctuations. When you have a high tide from the sea due to natural issues, you can't stop it, it's a natural thing. Some of them, yeah, it could have been caused by climate change, whatever. But there'll be a high tide. Once the level of water rises from the sea, the capacity to discharge into the sea will reduce.
Yeah.
So there's a lockdown upstream and the splash, which is a flooding. Now, the main river that transverses some of these areas, we have the River Niger and River Benue. You can liken the same river to Thames. Ganges, Thames in England, Ganges in India, or River Rhine,
Rhine in Germany.
in years in Germany. What has this country done? The capacity of this river to hold water, we need to increase that capacity. That's dredging. We've not dredged these inland waterways. This water is, rather than being a problem for us, supposed to be an asset. We can use it for navigation. There was plan times back that we're going to dredge the Niger River and the rest of it for navigation. Up to now, we've not done that. So annually, there's always this deposit, siltation, that reduces the capacity of this river to hold water. So you have a high level of siltation at the base of this river. So each year, you will just splash water because you've reduced the capacity, strength of these inland waterways. To live by the side of Thames is a pride. In England, it's expensive. So excuses that people are living within the floodplain, they should live, shouldn't be there. It should be an expensive thing. If we do the normal dredging, then you pay more to live around those areas. Now, that is on that. Now, again, for the Ogun State side, and I'm sure the governor himself came for the inspection. Governor Dr. Abiodun himself, he was around on Tuesday to conduct an inspection to look at the flood. And we have the deputy governor also that came with a team, high-powered government team. I was on that team. And the problem, well, they found out that there's no major primary trunk that will collect the water from this area and discharge into the Okparo River. Okparo River is a tributary of the Ogun River around there. Ogun River has to discharge into the lagoon, into the Lagos Lagoon at the Korodu end. But there must be a reticulation around the floodplain to allow, to tame the waterways and empty directly into the Ogun River and allow the Ogun River to discharge at the other end. That is one. Then the constrictions along this river, because the river is getting old, so there's a lot of meandering. And during that meandering period, you now have people reclaiming the land, especially with refuse. They reclaim that land during the dry season, and before you know it, they start building on it. Only for the rainy season to come, there's a constriction. So the capacity of the Ogun River itself to empty itself in the lagoon has been reduced because of the constriction downstream. So people upstream around this area, you are having the kind of impact down there. So you may have to delete all those properties that are causing this constriction. So an Ogun State government is already looking into that area to see how we can have a quick relief for people around this area by opening up the primary trunks. Then most of the estates also don't have the secondary drainage channels, so that the proper drainage channels or the secondary one can be rebuilt, so that the tertiary drains that we are seeing all over now that are overflowing can actually empty into the secondary and empty the primary channels.
So a question of planning.
Yes, the question of planning, the question of funding, and I think primarily you have to dredge the Niger River, so that it's not just Ogun State, all the states along that line where we are having problem of this overflow can be relieved.
But in talking about dredging the Niger River and even dredging the lagoon as well, I think the cost of that dredging, I'm sure that's one of the reasons why it's not been done yet.
I wouldn't think as the cost because it's all about having the finance mechanism. You know, these are things that are capital projects, and it's not something you bring out the money one day and pay.
But in doing that, in investing in it, you'll be looking at what will be the outcome, what will be
Yes.
the return on investment.
Right.
So is it a question? Is it something that might be bothering government at the different levels? As in, if we put in this amount of money, because I'm sure the costing would have been done what it will cost to dredge the Niger River.
Right.
If we put in this amount of money, what will be the return on investment?
Right. Like I said, you know, it's all about the financial mechanisms that you look at. I can tell you, if you have to build by the side of the Thames, it's more expensive. So if you are dredging along that line, we put a high premium on properties along that line, and we make it beautiful. Right now, we've abandoned those areas. We call them the wetland, and here's the floodplain. Floodplain does not mean it's not habitable. It's quite habitable, and you have to pay extra. And if the river is navigable itself, then people can run on their boats and everything. If your house is overlooking the river side, it's more expensive. So if we need to look at the financial mechanism and the setbacks and the premium on land, we can trade off with those that are going to invest in it. So to me, I see an investment in that area, all right? And you can have long-term funding for this investment, and that the property along that area can now be properly managed. So the river Niger itself becomes an asset, a national asset, and the states that want to include it can have asset. It's an asset for us. It's not a problem. But right now we see that it's a problem. But it's an asset waiting to be.
But there are all some other people who are seeing it not as a problem but an opportunity in terms of like land to claim.
Right.
Reclaiming land to build, and that's happening quite a lot around Lagos, Ogun areas. People reclaiming land to build. That would also affect the level of water rising. Are those buildings going to be affected?
No, no. When you dredge, you actually bring out the silts and the sand.
No, I'm talking about the reclaiming of land to build before the dredging.
No.
As it is now.
The haphazard thing, no, it's not that. I told you about people even using refuse to reclaim wetland. No, we're not talking about that kind of thing. We're talking about proper reclamation and proper embankment. You create the right embankment. The whole of Victoria Island was underwater, and the whole area has been reclaimed. Look at, there was a time we used to have this flooding around the Lagos Lagoon. I mean, the Lagos Bar Beach. It has been turned into an asset now. That's the new city being built in Lagos.
Eco-Atlantic.
The Eco-Atlantic. It used to be a problem. But when you put up your thinking cap, you turn your problem to asset. Eco-Atlantic is an iconic project globally. All right? And it used to be our problem. We used to spend money there every year to dredge to sandfill the Atlantic then. But right now we have a solution. The same thing, the Niger River. I'm sure by the time we sit down and work out the papers, I can tell you it's an asset. Big asset.
Okay, we'll take a moment and we'll come back, continue the conversation. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We're still talking about the flooding situation. We have Dr. Ola Oresanya here with us, who's an environmental consultant. Dr. Oresanya, the fact that we're talking about dredging, that's dredging the Niger River, but let's leave dredging and come out and look at something else here. Yes, Nigeria has plenty of water bodies. Some states are actually enclosed by water. But the question of planning, how much of planning goes into each city to ensure that these kind of things don't happen? Because there are cities in this country that don't have drains. I mean, there are no dams. Even mini dams, you see a water body, create a mini dam. For instance, someone said, this water, when it's released, can be dammed at a certain point so that it also can become useful to those that live in that environment. So the question of planning, how much of planning goes into our cities?
Well, from the little I know, I'll tell you, yes, we have a lot of plans, studies and plans have been developed to really make things better. But the question is implementation. All right. Your plan is as good as implementation. If you have a good plan and you're unable to implement, then you are in trouble. And what I see happening mainly in Nigeria is implementation. And it's got to do with then managing the bureaucracy in government from one government to the other. Mm. For example, you have a lot of studies that have been carried out in this area, in the Sherry, for example, you have studies, the hydrological studies that I'm aware that have been carried out about 20 years ago. Detailed studies and plans on how to decongest, how to deflood this whole area, the drainage network plan and the topo plan. But from government to government, the report is lost. Okay, nobody could lay hand on the report. You have to now do another one. Then you now have to plan again. By the time you finish planning, the government is on its way out. And the next government coming to do it will tell you, look, I'm not going to handle that one. I'm going to do something new. So we've had that problem in that consistency in actually managing the plan that we already have. Mm. Okay, so, and the implementation, then the people itself, skill. We've not been able to domesticate some of the skill in our people. We would rather depend on the foreigners to come and do this thing for us. And they go with knowledge. Having our own people to work with them and making sure that component of your project is to make sure that whatever you are doing, we have Nigerians that can do it, if not better. We've not been factoring that in our projects. And so the foreigners, they will come with the knowledge and that they will go away with it. You get more information about Nigeria and the Nigerian situation outside the shore of Nigeria than inside here. Because the reports are not just there. Mm. But planning, yes, we do plan. Implementation, faulty.
While we're talking about planning, and most of definitely would be looking at the government managing all, but let's look at the individuals in our winding down moment here. The residents themselves. Right. What difference can they make? For instance, we saw the footage of the areas that were flooded and what the people had to go through. Some are crying out. An entire market was taken over by floods in Imo. Communities in Bayelsa. The woman comes out and says, every day I have to take my children out of this place. So they swim through the water, go out, and then they still come back. Fortunately for them, their house is not flooded, but the way out and all of it. What can the people do?
Well, reducing it to a very simple form so that people would know this. Now, when you, anything that is, when it's free, then you are the product, basically. So when the land is cheap, you notice that the contiguous land is expensive, and somebody is telling you, come and buy this cheap land. They know that something is wrong there, okay? Maybe by the time the flood will go now, the area where people have left right now, new people will come there now and say, oh, we have cheap land there, come and buy. Only for you to find out during the rainy season that is the floodplain that you actually bought water and not land. That will always happen. So you need to check, why is this land not occupied? Why are people not there? So don't think it's just free. If it's free and you think it's free and you put in your money there, then you're in trouble. Right. Then two, even if you are building in a flood-prone area, there are elevations where you can put your building. For example, several areas, there are topo maps that you can search for information. And once they give you the information and tell you, look, your foundation must be at this level. Because in most of the areas, people will have been there before government gets there. People develop. If government is going to put the road, government will do the road in line with the real datum. They will have taken level, the water level, and take a very reasonable datum in that area. So by the time development gets there, people will have built, and the road will be higher than the houses. So before you build your house, go and take information from government. What is the level upon which my foundation should be? Not that you now build and the government is now coming to do the road. And now find out you are already underwater. So that goes on and on in the area. So, but if you're already trapped in this, well, I think you maybe have to be a bit nomadic. during the rainy season, you may have to find alternative to move out. It's better to be safe than
to be sorry.
Than to be sorry.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ola Oresanya, environmental consultant. Let me just read this tweet before I let you go. Professor Imonoha Enakina says, we must be able to plan adequately to arrest floodings. Let's dredge River Niger pathways and turn it to economic hub for goods and service delivery, and decongest Lagos ports, Lokoja and Onitsha end of the river can be turned into massive national economic assets. It's doable. Thank you very much.
Just alluding to what I said.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, Sunrise will be back in a moment as we talk health. Join us again.